Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. We're excited. Again, we talked about this, the weird kind of transitions here, Mer, but
I don't think it's weird.
All right, well, good.
I do not think it's weird at all.
Yeah, it
would be weird if we didn't intro the podcast like that.
It's so true.
Yeah,
it is so true because hey, if you think it's weird, it's weird. If you don't think it's weird, it's not weird.
Nope.
Right?
That's right.
We've talked about that, or we're going to be talking about that too. But today is explain your price with a purpose. All right, explain the price with a purpose. All right, so there's a couple of things that we talk about with sales, right? And the number one kind of thing is that people will buy because they like you, because they trust you, and because they understand. So it's like, trust, and understand. That's the number one reason why people, or the top three reasons why people buy from you is like, trust, and understand. And like and trust is just going to come through you being you and your personality. And that's not necessarily what we're talking about today. We're talking about the understand. And so the understand is, I think, one of the most important points that people miss just in sales in general. But the purpose behind the plan will give them the ability to understand, right? So like, trust, understand, and then the purpose behind the plan will give them the ability to understand. And so this, I think, is extremely important in this particular segment, Miranda. And so it's like, so as we're kind of going throughout this process, we have to find the purpose. What is the purpose that they're looking at this, right? I don't care what product it is that you have. There's a purpose that they came to you. There's a reason behind it. And it is our job to find out what that reason is by asking as many questions as you possibly can. So we're gonna tie this one to insurance, but I don't even care if they're coming to buy a new car. I don't care if they're looking at a timeshare. I don't care, whatever it is that they're looking at. It is our job. It is your job to find out what the reason that they're looking at this. They're not going to take an hour out of their day or a half their day to come and just waste time with you and kick the tires and just, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people kind of chat with you a little bit, but Miranda, so that's what we have to do. That's our number one goal, is to kind of find out the reason as to why they're there. And then we tie that reason into the purchase price, into the price. Okay. So let me just kind of give you some examples on how we do that. And we're not going to get too much into kind of digging into their why, and we're not going to get into the XY theory and you're the stimulus that creates the response. Even though, Miranda, we probably should have done a part 1 and a part 2 to this, I think, right?
We still can.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But again, so maybe we should.
Let's do that. Listen, let's just do that right here, right now. This is part 1. Let's go. Let's hear it, John. Right now.
So part 1 of explaining, really getting into explaining the price with the purpose. Number 1, let's dig into their why. And so we are going to, we're gonna just dig in here, right? We're gonna ask as many who, what, where, when, why, and hows as we possibly can. You're always gonna start off those questions with who, what, when, where, why, and how. So you do not, Miranda, tell them the difference between a closed-ended question and an open-ended question. We're going to start with an open-ended question, but give them a couple examples of closed-ended.
So closed-ended is just yes or no. Open-ended requires more than one answer.
Yeah.
So exactly. If you want them, and this is something too, if you want them to be truthful, I would ask a yes or no question. You want yes or no. If you want them to start thinking about something, or then you ask them an open-ended question, a question that require more than one answer.
Yeah. So don't start off with do you, right? Do you like this color? Or do you agree with this price? Or do you agree with me? Those are closed-ended questions. Open-ended questions are going to start off with, just like we said, who, what, when, where, why, and how. So we would do that. Let's kind of tie this, this insurance deal in here, Mer. So we're going to start off with really kind of finding out a lot about them. Let's say that I have Miranda and, you know, her significant other, Trent, and we're sitting here. And so I'd say, hey, you know, Miranda, why are you guys looking into this type of protection? You know, what would be the importance for the two of you? Or what would it mean for the two of you? And then Miranda would go ahead, like, just give me kind of.
Yeah, like if I die, I want to make sure that my family is okay.
Okay. Make sure that the family's okay. And then, you know, we'd go to Trent and kind of ask the same thing. Hey, Trent, you know, what's the same thing for you? And then Trent would give us his example. All right. So Miranda, you know, as of right now, like as it stands today, like if you were to pass away, how long would your family be okay for?
My house, sorry, repeat the question one more time. I glitched out a little.
That's okay. So you said that you want to make sure that your family's okay. So what I'm basically saying is, hey, without this coverage, like how long would your family be okay for? If God forbid something happened today, how long would your family be okay for?
Like right now, like with what I have like saved up and everything that's in place now, maybe a couple of years.
Okay. All right. Very good. And Miranda, after that couple of year period of time, how would their situation kind of change without all the savings and everything that you have?
It would be terrible.
Okay. And what does terrible mean?
Like I don't know how they would pay for anything.
Wouldn't know how to pay, like, wouldn't know how to pay for what? Wouldn't know how to pay for the house, wouldn't know how to pay for school, wouldn't know how to pay, like, kind of talk to me about some of that stuff.
Yeah, so like I guess the house would be tight, you know, with one income, and you know, they definitely would be able to go to a super expensive private school anymore, so they'd have to go back to public school. No more Instacart deliveries. Like life would be a lot different. No more flag football and whatever else about going. Like it would just, we'd have to go down to the bare bones minimum and probably move into an apartment with how much things cost now where we live.
Okay, move into an apartment. And would they be able to kind of stay in the same area, or is like, no?
I doubt it.
Okay, not even in the same area. And I know, well, I don't know, but so again, no private schools. So like here's kind of what I'm hearing, and kind of correct me if I'm wrong here, but you basically said, look, if God forbid something happens just after a short period of time, you're talking, you know, whatever, couple of years, that they wouldn't know how to pay for anything, right? They wouldn't be able to pay for anything. So essentially they kind of lose their house, and they would lose their friends, right? Like, because no more private school. So those are the circle of influence that they're around right now. No more Instacart, no more flag football, no more fun for them. Kind of move into an apartment, which is much smaller, different conditions. How about like school area? You know, like think of that. Like they're in, I'm assuming if they're in private school, they're in a nice school area right now. Like, how do you think that alters their upbringing if they have to go to a much lower income area that's more affordable? Like how do you think that impacts?
It would be different. It would be definitely a change.
Okay, definitely a change. And so okay, so now we're gonna pause, but I found a lot of the purpose, right? Like she just told me a reason. She and Miranda, like we haven't done this in a long time, but like you're hesitant on giving me stuff. You're like, I don't know.
Damn right.
Right.
Damn right, John. I want to see what's going on here. No, but they do that. We talked about this on another podcast that we did, that the first answer is not the real answer. The first time they give an answer back, it's not real. It's just surface level BS, man. You got to get underneath that. So I did that on purpose.
Yeah, you did. And I'm like, well, I don't know, a couple years. All right, well, that's okay. And just roll with the punches. Just keep like what you're doing here is you're just kind of finding out how the situation would play out with a friend. You know, it's like, this is the same conversation that I have with Miranda that I would have with a complete stranger, because they need to walk their pain. We need to find their purpose. Their purpose is so important for the understanding. Remember, people buy because they like you, because they trust you, and because they understand how you specifically are going to impact their future. Okay, so like, trust, understand. Go ahead.
Without any pain, the price is just another bill, right? And this was really hard for me, John. Like, I'm not like talking about emotions and all this. Like, we got trained not to do that in our last company. So when I started doing this, I was like, I'm gonna have to talk to people about death and like what would happen if they're not here. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but it's our job to make sure that they can paint themselves in the situation that they need to be in order to see themselves with or with not whatever it is that you're trying to sell them.
Yeah.
And I'm not a salesperson, so walking into any consultation, I never go in there trying to sell anyone. I go in there to see if there's a problem and see how I can help.
That's right.
And this is, I'm asking these questions to see, does he need my help? And if so, here's the solution. But if I go in there with my like sales radar going, like, I don't help anyone. I go in there with my heart for it. I help almost every single person.
It's so true. It's so true. And Miranda, here's the reality. You have two different types of buyers. You have a logical buyer and you have an emotional buyer, right? And really what we're doing there is we're kind of really tapping into the emotions, and we're having them walk their pain, just like you said. We're finding out what the problem would be. And don't get me wrong. I mean, we could sit here and talk about the exceptions. Well, what about the people that they have $1 million, or they have $5 million in coverage, and they have. And okay, well, they went out and got $5 million for a reason. They're still on the phone with you. There's still some sort of insecurity in their life that you have to be confident enough. You have to understand, like, you have to walk that path and make sure that they're walking their pain and find out why you're on the phone. Because if you don't get that, it's going to be so much harder. All right. So now we got the purpose. Now what I'm going to do is, and there's a little bit more.
Before you go into the next part, okay? There's something that was a number that really got tied to what you just did that was important for me, because I'm a structure person. John is, you've already got to see him enough to know that he's not as structured as I am. But I knew that I had to go at least 7 layers deep with these, because I didn't know. I'm new at this. I'm new at selling, whatever. I knew that if I went 7 layers deep, I probably went long enough to figure out their situation. So I just had to have a number in my head, and then I'd move on, right, to maybe another thing, 7 layers there, just to try to get the full meal deal. So, what you're saying is awesome. And then boom, sometimes you'll have the answer a little bit sooner than that, but after 7 layers, you definitely have it.
And I think that there's another important point there too, right? It's just like make them walk their pain. There's so many times we can get on, Miranda, where we're talking to a client and then the client's like, oh my God, I need this so bad because my brother-in-law, he passed away. He left his family with absolutely nothing. They went to foreclosure. They're living downstairs in my basement now. And I wouldn't want that to happen to my family. That's great. There's a why there, but we didn't get them to walk their purpose. We didn't get them to walk through their pain. We didn't get them to see like how their life is going to look in this kind of idea. So it did, like, that seems super simple, and that seems like a lay down, right? Is what we called it in so many other industries before. But it's not. Make them always. Never skip this part of it. Never skip steps. I promise you. So
if you did, let's say you went with that surface level, and that's not even surface level, they have a reason that they want it. What could end up happening? Let's say I don't go in and I don't take it a step further. What do you risk by doing that?
The grand old think about it, right? That's really what it boils down to, is because if you do not get the purpose behind the plan, if you do not dig into their why, if you do not make them walk their pain, you're going to get, there's absence of value, right? And so the price won't matter. So, oh yeah, let's think about it. No, go ahead. What
happens? Okay. So the best time to handle an objection is before they say it.
Yeah.
Right. So if we already know, if you don't do this, they're going to say that they have to think about it. Would it be smart to do what he's talking about now? Instead, it's easier to handle it here than all of a sudden now they have to think about it. Now you have to talk about that on top of going into what you're going to have to do anyway. So sometimes it's just being lazy, or you didn't know, but a lot of times it's being lazy and just thinking that it's a done deal ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I also know, John, by digging in the way you're talking about, you're able to help people with so much more. You're able to really see what their problem is instead of just going with that surface level solution. Right.
Well, and they're more vulnerable with you, and they open up to you. And so it's almost like they trust you a little bit more. Right. And there's also this sense of it too, Miranda, where it's like, it comes across more like, did that seem interrogative? No, it was more of like a confrontation. Like he kind of cares, right? And they get to see a little bit of a different side to you instead of like just wham bam, thank you, ma'am, right? It's like, no, like this dude actually, or this girl actually kind of cares about what would happen to my family in my situation. So it does so much more, I think, even from a psychological standpoint of getting you to connect on a higher EQ level with them than just a transaction. It's a lot less transactional too. So great point, Mark.